All right, I think we're live and good to go here. Tyson, man, bro. First things first. Thanks so much for hopping on. Obviously, yesterday, Christmas. We got New Year's in a week. How's it going, man? How was your holiday?
Doing great. Merry late Christmas to everybody. I had a good time, dude. It's a very busy, hectic time of year. You get the Jets continuing to lose, whatever. But it's really busy, man. Very, very busy.
Yeah, and by the way, thanks so much for everyone hanging out. Happy tanking. Jets fan, what's going on, man? K dude. A regular man in these in the podcast streams. Bro, I appreciate you, man. And I hope everyone had a happy holiday, spent time with your friends, your family, and had some nice time off too. But Tyson, dude, I mean, you mentioned it. The Jets keep on losing.
Mm-hmm.
That Rams game drove me up a wall. I mean, I was actually pretty impressed with how they started out.
Yep.
I felt like the play calling was okay. I felt like Aaron Rodgers looked sharp. Devontae was getting targets. Garrett Wilson was getting targets. 99-yard drive, like I said, early on. I actually, going into halftime, I was thinking this is, I could easily see the Jets winning this one, but of course, in the end, they find another new way to lose and blow it. So, what was kind of your main takeaways from that Rams game?
You got the full Jets experience. You got the highs, the lows, and the complete meltdown in the end where you're like, you just get disgusted, where you're like, I've seen this before, but now they added a new touch to it. Now you have the kicker missing things. You have Rodgers fumbling. You have the fumble punt. All these different things. But then you had some things that were, I mean, the results don't even bother me anymore. Ulbricht's getting fired. Don't care about that. Downing's getting fired. But there's some things that are really starting to concern me and bother me. And the first one is the Garrett Wilson situation where, Garrett Wilson is becoming increasingly frustrated. And as this season plays out, and we're getting closer to the end of the season, a little more vocal, a little more rumors around him. And it's bothering the hell out of me because to me, it's like you may love Davante Adams all you want. He may be here one more year at best if the whole Aaron Rodgers thing comes back. Garrett Wilson's your future, man. He's a young rising star as a wide receiver. He hates losing. He wears it on his sleeve. He's the kind of leader and captain you want your team going forward. And now it seems like, I'm not going to say he's being alienated, but it's getting ugly early. And that bothers me, dude, because I think the powers that be are letting it happen and they're not preventing it. And I think once the season ends, the trade demand is going to come.
Dude, I was thinking about it the other day, actually, like right before Christmas Eve. I actually think I did a video on it, but bro, if you're honestly, man, like objectively speaking, we're both Jets fans, but if you put yourself in Garrett's shoes, I mean, requesting a trade for him is a win-win. What's going to happen? He's either going to get, that the trade request is either going to force the Jets' hand to give him a ton of money on an extension. That's the first outcome. The second is the Jets say, all right, we'll trade you and we'll send you off to I would assume a good team that has a plan for you and that's going to pay you. Or scenario 3, which is kind of the curveball, the Jets can, and this was like the Joe Douglas, special where it's like, you could request the trade. We're not going to do anything. We still have control. You're still on a rookie deal. And, beyond that rookie deal, we have the 5th-year option. And then if worse, comes to worse, we have the franchise tag as well. That to me doesn't really make a whole lot of sense, tagging a player like Garrett. But again, dude, like as much as it pains me to say it, I feel like that trade request is coming for better or for worse.
Yeah. And that's my concern. It's like you're watching the building crumble now. And now he's kind of one of the guys that you believed in. Like a couple of years ago, it was like Sauce and Brees and Garrett and Jermaine Johnson. And now you see this kind of falling apart. You're like, how does it get here? Now it's like, to me, it puts an absolute premium on the kind of people you guys on the Jets hire for this job, because you need to bring in a staff and a coach that looks Garrett Wilson in the eye and say, listen, we're going to maximize your talent. We're going to change these ways and we're going to start winning around here. We're not going to, because he's probably tired. Most importantly, he's probably tired of losing and being a laughing stock in the NFL, right? That's probably his first thing. Then he wants to get his numbers and he wants to get paid. All three. But I think how much you have to think once that general manager looks him in the face or that head coach looks to him eye to eye and talks to him, he's either going to buy in or want out. Or do you think he pretty much wants out regardless? Like, how do you think this goes down? Is it that important to get that guy? Or is it, listen, man, damage is already done?
I think that he is sick and tired of losing.
Yeah.
So as you were talking, I was pulling up the targets leaders per game from like the wide receiver position. And Garrett's 4th. 4th in football in targets.
Okay, but can we clarify that though? How many of those targets are in garbage time where the game's out of control, where it doesn't really matter? Because this past game this Sunday was exactly what he's probably frustrated about, and he's hinting towards it could be a Rodgers thing, man. Rodgers like, you know what? I'm gonna keep forcing this ball to Devontae Adams. I don't care if you're open or not. Like, I'm curious, and I could be completely wrong, but how many of those targets are when the game didn't matter anymore, when they're kind of just running out the clock and just feeding him?
Yeah, it is a good point. But I don't want the narrative out there to be, oh, the Jets don't utilize him, they don't use him. He's not getting any looks when he's literally he's a top 5 receiver in overall targets. Rodgers has been throwing his way. He is putting up great individual numbers. He's on pace for another 1,000-yard season. Obviously, the back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons with all the dysfunction with the coaches and, the O-line, the quarterbacks. Rookie of the year. Obviously he's a great young football player. I feel like, pretty much, I can't speak for everyone, but the majority of Jets fans want to see Garrett here for, at the very least, another 5-6 years.
Absolutely.
On that big money extension. I mean, in my opinion, he deserves it. To be honest with you, it gets me excited thinking about Garrett Wilson, Brees, all these different guys, Olu, potentially Devontae, with like a well-respected, knowledgeable offensive staff. Like that really fires me up because you just got to imagine that the numbers are going to continue to go up for Garrett. But
so do you think he's tired of losing? Do you put a premium? Do you need a Vrabel or a Flores or somebody like that to come in where he's like, all right, I know these guys are going to turn this around? Or, do you worry that the Jets hire a first-time coordinator? And I like this guy a lot, Aaron Glenn. He's like, all right, new guy, but I want to go to a winning team, something I can believe in. Do you believe in any of that, or is it just a matter of like I'm just trying to get your vibe on that?
Right, dude. I like for me, I think the trade request is coming no matter who we hire.
I think so too.
GM, head coach, I think it's coming because again, that puts the pressure. Well, it's funny. There's almost like a 2-step kind of plan from agents. It's like delete all the social media stuff, take the team out of the bio, and then step 2 is officially request the trade. And, it works, bro. Like Brandon Ayuk requested a trade. Deebo Samuel requested a trade. Like we've seen receivers do this just to re-sign on a big money deal. If I'm being honest, I would rather see Garrett request a trade early in the process as opposed to, post draft or something where there's like a training camp holdout or some, just negative situation, another negative situation that the Jets would have to deal with. But I do think based off of how Wilson, talks about the losses after games, it really feels like he's the one that cares the most.
Yep.
It's like you listen to Ulbrich or, Todd Downing when Saleh was here, when Joe Douglas was here. It's like losing is fine. Like we're totally fine being mediocre. Yeah. And Garrett's coming in from a program, top 10 pick again, all the individual stats that he, a receiver could want, coming in from Ohio State, high winning pedigree in profile. Really, you lose one game, that's a disappointment with the Buckeyes. Now he's with the Jets, and it's like you listen to head coach, the interim head coach, the GM, all these different guys, the coordinators. It's the vibe of it is what it is. We'll get him next week. Yeah, if we win, great. We're the best team in football, and teams better watch out for us. But if we lose, it's we just got to take a hard look and do a deep dive and have a great week of practice.
No, that's been my thing for a while now. It's just like the Jets have become very good at justifying losses and justifying excuses where there's nobody being held accountable. So you have Garrett clearly upset and frustrated. But the weird thing is with this, it's like, how does Aaron Rodgers play into this? Because if you're Garrett, you want to win, but you also want to know that you have a quarterback that's going to throw you the ball. So while he seems frustrated with Rodgers now, is that a guy coming back next year, in theory, going to appease him, make him feel a little more comfortable? Like, all right, I know what this quarterback is, as opposed to Tyrod or Justin Fields or whoever else. Do you think Aaron Rodgers is a factor in helping him stay? Or if he comes back, Garrett's like, you know what? More of Aaron means more of Devontae. I'm going to be in the same spot I was this year, and I don't want to do that. What side would he be on?
That's a good point, dude. I mean, you kind of feel like Garrett is in like the T. Higgins role now with like Jamar and Burrow having that connection. Jamar's obviously, he's a better receiver than T. Higgins, but it's close. Both players are effective. And there's games where Higgins has a better performance, like from a statistical standpoint. Dude, that's a really interesting question. I think at this point right now, it probably feels like only Garrett has that answer.
Yeah, it's interesting.
One thing I was actually going to ask you about later on in the stream, but we're talking about it now. Did you feel like, well, first of all, did you watch the Aaron Rodgers presser after the game and the Garrett Wilson presser?
Mm-hmm.
Did you kind of feel like they were talking about each other?
Yep. 100%.
In regards to and I know we were texting a little bit about it. We didn't really get into much detail, but as far as Rodgers talking about, we'll see who really wants to be here or who's in and who's out. I forget the exact quote. And then Garrett, kind of had like a weird type of comment. I didn't, my first reaction was, I thought he was talking about Hackett and Downing.
Right. No,
and then
Rodgers.
Yeah. And then,
but that's why if you read through the lines here and you see it, like you could see, like as the seasons play out, the last few weeks, you could see a little more vocal, a little more hints, a little more pushback because more losses. Now he's like, you know what? I'll take shots at Aaron Rodgers. I genuinely don't care because maybe I'm not going to be here next year anyway. Or like, I just think he's a little more confident. And it's like, you don't want to like cause a stir week 6. Week 6, a long season of dealing with the media. 2 weeks left. Nobody cares. I think they're taking digs at each other. And I think Aaron's pushing back a little bit. I'm sure he feels it. He sees it. And you know how he is, man. He's always going to take you push him, he's going to push you back. But I 100% thought that.
Dude, he'll push back at anybody.
100%.
Guys in the media, whatever. Like he's out, like obviously he's outspoken. We've seen Rodgers, call out players before. Mike Williams. He's called out Garrett before in the media.
Yep.
Saying that he slipped in a game. On like a last on a fourth quarter drive.
But don't you like it's funny to hear Rodgers say, you know what, we'll see who wants to be here next year, who wants to be here going forward. Like, who the hell are you? Like you may not even be here. Like, you know what I mean? It's like it's funny, like he's acting like this superior leader. We're like, oh, like we're gonna see who really wants it next year. Bro, like you're 4-11 or whatever your record is at this point. Like nobody cares. Like this is ridiculous now to act like you're keeping notes for next year. I found it odd, but there is definitely a beef there. There's actually a good point in the chat too. Like, remember during training camp, you saw the videos of them like kind of arguing, but everybody said they were great competitors where they're really intense. Like they want to be experts. They want to be, they're so specific to detail where they want it to be perfect. That's sort of there. But I think when he puts all that work and all the extra work, work diligently, route running, learn the offense, learn Rodgers, and then's not getting the ball in crunch time, he's like, dude, what am I doing here? And we're losing. So things that we're doing isn't working. And, whenever the Jets were driving and trying to get the 500th touchdown for Aaron, he was clearly forcing the ball to Davante Adams. It was more than obvious. I guarantee you it'll happen this weekend. And it's like, what are we doing? Like, that's not what this is about anymore. But that rubs people wrong in the locker room. And I'm sure over the year, when they finally had a chance to play Aaron Rodgers for a full year, you saw things just this year they didn't get a chance to see last year. And I think that's where some of this is coming in, where it could be egos, it could be stats, it could be whatever it is, but I think it is too, man. But the thing is, the Garrett Wilson is a player that you want to have here long term. Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers right now are a Band-Aid. One more year and they're going to be gone. That's it. So you worry about the short term or the long term, and I worry about long term.
Let me ask you this, just hypothetical question. If the Jets had 11 wins right now, all the stats the same, Rodgers, Garrett, but they're close. We had made kicks early on in the season. Rodgers didn't miss on a couple throws. Stats identical. Do you think Garrett would be this frustrated if we had 10, 11, 12 wins right now?
I don't think so.
And the stats are the exact same.
Because you know what happens when you're 11 and say you're 11-5? You have endorsements. You have sponsorships. You have public appearances. You're making money hand over fist. Autograph signings. He had that incredible catch in the back of the end zone. Probably the best catch I've ever seen in my life as a Jet fan. He'd be at autograph making $125 an autograph. Sign it. He'd be making a fortune. When you lose, your team is irrelevant. Nobody wants to see you play. Nobody wants to talk to you. It just beats you down, especially after year after year after year. So if you're winning, you're the talk of the town. Everybody loves you. You have a lot of opportunities to make up things. You just feel better about your team, yourself, and your contributions. When you're losing and not doing anything you can, you're like, you know what? This is never going to change because their same old Jet stigma that nobody wants to talk about is still there. When you don't make the playoffs for 14 years, you have guys like Rodgers saying maybe they were cursed. So I think it makes a huge difference, man.
Yeah, and Tyrell makes a great point here. I believe Aaron Rodgers needs to take some accountability. We've seen Rodgers take a lot of shots, man. Whether it's at the coaching staff, whether it was at Garrett Wilson, whether it was at Mike Williams, the whole red line comment after that game. Um, and occasionally he'll say like, "Oh, I need to play better" and stuff. But one thing, dude, again, this is just another hypothetical kind of just question that popped in my mind early on in the week, or early on last week. Do you think Garrett, again, like we know like where the offensive game is in the NFL. We're looking at all. We know how kind of the refs operate with the roughing the passer, pass interference, things like that. We know the NFL wants quarterbacks to do well. They want points. If they didn't think that the Jets were, if they didn't want the Jets to be good, like they're getting all these primetime games, star power. Do you think that Garrett Wilson is looking at other players or offensive systems across the football, across the league, whether it's, the Chiefs, the Rams, take your pick on any effective offense, Packers, Miami, for an example, they're not the best this season, but you kind of, Malik Neighbors is a good example, right? Not so good quarterback situation, not so good coaching situation, not so good offensive system. He's still putting up a ton of numbers. Do you think Garrett maybe looks across the landscape of football and just shows up to practice and there's this like weird dynamic with Rodgers and the system. And, we could go back to, I think it was actually in the Athletic reports. So, we have to take it with a grain of salt, but Rodgers is tied to this system and he's going to potentially, allegedly push back on learning a new system that might not be something that he wants to do at this stage. Do you think Garrett feels as though like the offense is like archaic? You kind of get that feel in Dallas with like CeeDee Lamb and whatnot with McCarthy.
1,000%. Let's just be honest. Hackett was one of the worst coordinators in football. Todd Downing's not much better. The Jets are one of the worst coach teams in the NFL, and it's blatantly obvious week in and week out. Like, how many schemes do you see Devontae and Garrett running into each other? Like, literally running into, because like it's just awful, dude. So he probably watches other teams with competent coaching staffs, whatever. You can look at the Chiefs, the Bills, whoever you want. And like, why can't we be like this? I'm not asking for much. Get me open, scheme me open. Give me the ball in space. Let's stop throwing 2-yard passes 12 times a game that we know we can't complete. Like, like, dude, as a player, if you have something you can believe in or not. Like if you work a job and your boss tells you something, you're like, you know what? I'm going to do it because you're the boss. I know this is never going to work. And I get the feeling that Garrett's on the field sometimes knowing that a certain play call is not going to work. He's definitely not getting the ball, all these different things. And he's like, you know what? Okay, I'm coming back next year. What's this offense going to be? Who's the offensive mind? Like, you can tell he likes Mike LaFleur because you want creativity. You want all these different things. You're not seeing it now. So I'm coming back. Who are you selling on in this offense? What is your offense? And you made an excellent point, which something I argued about yesterday. Nice Christmas Day argument was, okay, Aaron Rodgers is saying all the right things. I'll take a pay cut. I'll be a mentor. I will cut your grass 3 days a week. I'll even shine the helmets before the game. Just so you guys all look pretty when you go on the field. Aaron Rodgers is ready to do it all, right? But here's the deal. What offense is he going to be comfortable in? And when you're bringing in a new coordinator and you want to bring Aaron Rodgers at a discounted price, are you going to implement your offense or an offense that's catering to him for 1 year and then change it again, which to me is a recipe for disaster. That's not what you want to do. But how are you, that's my question with the whole Rodgers Garrett thing. Like, what offense is he comfortable running and can Garrett flourish in it? Like, this coordinator job is going to be huge too.
Yeah. And well, I will say, if we could hire an offensive mind, like a Liam Cohen or, even one of these older, ex-head coaches, whatever. I got to be honest, man, it does make me nervous thinking about the next GM coming in, the next, and Marcus, we'll dive into the whole, GM head coaching combo here in a minute. Great point, by the way, but I don't want to see a situation with the GM, head coach, OC, play caller, whatever, like the whole organization once again comes in and there's this like either mandate or unwritten rule. Well, Rodgers is here and he took a pay cut. and he's our star player. He's the quarterback. He's the future Hall of Famer. So we have to tailor everything towards what he wants to do moving forward, whether that's keeping Lazard, whether that's making sure that Devontae's the number one all the time, no matter what we see on the field, the drops. Lazard had 2 drops.
Oh.
Devontae had a drop TD, and Devontae has dropped multiple passes this season with the Jets. I love him. He's a great player. We saw what he did against Jacksonville and what he's done throughout the course of his career, but it's not like he's Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson out there at this stage. So, bro, that honestly makes me nervous, right? And take your pick on whoever you want as the next GM and head coach combo. If there's some weird unwritten rule, all right, Rodgers is here, we have to run his style of offense, which like other players like Garrett don't necessarily want to perform in, or they think it's archaic, or it's just the old style of the NFL, old offensive football. I think that's just a complete recipe for disaster. That's shooting yourself in the foot from day one. And believe me, man, I'm all for tailoring the offense around a quarterback skill set. I don't like necessarily the coaches that come in and say, this is my system, you have to run it and you have to adapt.
But you have principles, though. You have principles of your offense that you want to implement, whether it's West Coast, whatever it is. You have a concepts that you fully believe in. And if it's not a match with Rodgers, and this is why you want the new GM, the new coach to have full power. Like, say if Rodgers comes out after the last game of the season, hey, man, you know what? I'm going to take a month to think about what I want to do. Cool. You can think about it all you want, because we're going to tell you what we're going to do. We're going to tell you either you're staying or you're going. That's it. That's the way. That's what I want this staff to do. Like, listen, we appreciate you taking a discount. We appreciate all these things. We looked at the way we want to build our team. We think there's other quarterback options out there. We don't think you're a good fit for our culture or our offense, for that matter. And if that's the case, goodbye. Like, this isn't like in theory, Woody Johnson has no say. He doesn't. This is your staff. When they interview Riddick or Dimitroff, whatever it is, part of that interview's got to be, what is your vision for our offense and the roster as you see it today? How do you want to handle Aaron Rodgers? The answer comes right there. You know what? I understand bringing back at a discount this year is fine. In 2 years, that cap hit is going to be an albatross that's going to set us back in terms of our rebuild. Woody Johnson should have no say then. Well, no, you have no say. Then he has to go. But that's the perfect world for me. Nothing's determined by Aaron Rodgers. I don't care what he thinks about darkness retreat. Don't care. I don't care what Woody Johnson says. That next GM, that coach, they decide, and we roll with it.
I agree, man. I agree. Yeah, Mr. Bro, I appreciate you, man. I hope you had a great Christmas. Winning cures all. Yeah, and that kind of goes back to the question that, we were talking about before. If we had 10, 11, 12 wins, would Garrett be this frustrated? I think just him being a part of this team and us not being a playoff threat, us not reaching 500, us firing coaches and hiring the wrong coaches. These players are young, man, and
they know, dude. They know. They know bad coaching. They know when they're not being coached well. They know it, and now it's like, all right, Ulbricht's interim. Can't really be mad at him, but Saleh wasn't good either.
Julian, man, I appreciate you, bro. Thank you so much. Do you think there's a chance that they can get Sam Darnold? I also want to see what the Titans do. Maybe they go for Aaron Rodgers. I want them to go for ZW. I'm assuming you're talking about Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson mentioned?
One thing, bro. So I guess with the whole Sam Darnold thing, I just don't see him coming back.
Why
if the Seahawks move on from Geno, I don't see him coming back either. I feel like that ship has sailed. And also too, I do think it's worth mentioning that, the Vikings have a fantastic support system for whoever plays quarterback. I mean, they got the best wide receiver in football. They got Hawkinson. They got Aaron Jones. They got a top offensive line. They got a top 5 offensive coach in football with Brian Flores. What do the Vikings have right now? The 2nd or 3rd ranked defense in football.
Yep.
I mean, that's a beautiful spot to land in if you're a quarterback, whether it's McCarthy, whether it's Kirk, whether it's Darnold. I mean, we actually saw the Vikings winning games last year with like Josh Dobbs and stuff. Like, they were competitive. I feel like Minnesota is a sweet spot, not to discount, what Darnold's doing, but I have a hard time seeing Darnold throwing like 35 touchdowns a year from now until the point he retires. No. I think the culture of the Titans make a lot of sense for Sam, but there was a lot of smoke about Rodgers with Tennessee.
He's got a house down there.
Does he really? Okay.
But I think if he's gonna go on like the tail end of his career, I'm sure he's gonna want to go somewhere where he's gonna have a legitimate winning chance. Like, does he go back up Purdy in San Francisco, like, or something? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, I think he's gonna want to play, but like a
Yeah.
chance to win, kind of, you know. But I don't know. But Sam Darnold's definitely 1,000% not coming back to the Jets. Maybe he goes to the Giants because, like, that's an idea, but not definitely. There's no way, dude.
Well, yeah, like another whole thing with Darnold too is like this is his time to cash in as a player. People are saying like 40 million a season.
Yep.
Well, some people are saying like 50 million a season, but I personally wouldn't go that far. I think he's probably going to get a contract similar to what Daniel Jones got.
Bingo.
And do the Jets have that much money to just dump into the quarterback position with the whole Aaron Rodgers thing? Because whether he's here or not, we still have to pay him a lot. Tyrod's on a 2-year deal. Jordan Travis is on a rookie deal. Yeah, when you're just looking at macro perspective, like how many millions of dollars are going into the quarterback position, it's a lot with or without Darnold. I just can't see another $40 million just sunken into the QB position for a guy that has already, had a rough go in New York. And granted, it'll be with a different coach and whatnot, but
yeah, the quarterback position next year is not going to be a big money spot for the Jets if Aaron Rodgers leaves. It's going to be a competition with guys that you try to hope that you get lightning in a bottle. Tyrod Taylor, whoever, Justin Fields, have Jordan Travis compete, draft a guy in the 3rd round or 2nd round, whatever. But it's going to be like, you're not going to get that. No Kirk Cousins. It's going to be like, all right, let's try these like lesser tier guys, fight it out, establish our program. The year after, maybe make our splash if our draft pick or nobody rises to the occasion. But I don't see them. I think Darnold's got no chance of him coming here.
Yeah, dude. So let's shift gears and talk about this whole GM head coach combo.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because the minute this news came out, I'm like, I knew exactly who's going to make a video on this. My late great friend Pete Carroll, who I was a season ticket holder when he was a coach of the Jets and was fired after 1 year for Rich Kotite, which made absolutely no sense. But when I saw the rumor, I'm like, I know exactly who's going to be smiling right now because like that's Ian's guy. You like him, you respect him. Both of us said we'd be surprised he left the West Coast to come East. I think he wants the perfect position. I was kind of thinking more of like, hey, if he's a general manager, like a director of football operations, that kind of guy, where that's my sense of like, I want him like the operations guy kind of overseeing it. Coaching, not so much, in my opinion, a little bit older. Kind of want, I don't know, I'm not discounting him. He's got energy and life and he's a fiery guy. Love his passion. But to me, he's more of an operations guy, like a front office guy instead of a head coach. But what do you think about Pete Carroll?
Not a bad option, in my opinion, man. Probably not my first or second choice. Excuse me.
He's 73 years old.
Yeah, but I mean, how old are some of these other guys that we're talking about? Like, how old is Rex Ryan?
I don't know, bro. Spagnuolo is 65, right?
Yeah, he's up there. And and Pete Carroll is kind of known for having that energy, man, bringing life to a team, creating a culture, kind of a player's coach. Development of players is off the charts. I mean, I feel like Seattle when Carroll was, had a real big hand in decision making over there, him and Schneider, they would do a good job of just, we can go out and select a corner in the mid to late rounds and he's starting and he looks amazing. And we can, fix our defensive line and fix our pass rushers and, go find wide receivers. It's like 2 drafts and they have like a fully loaded team. It's Russell Wilson was a, mid-round pick, a lot of mid-round picks. Really that I'm, now that I'm really thinking about it, like draft develop. They were never really that big splashy type of team, kind of like the Rams where they're having to make all these different trades. I know they got Percy Harvin, but
I get what you're saying. But then isn't that you see more of those the fruits of the labor after 4 or 5 years? Are you going to get that? Like, how many years do you think he has left coaching? If it's only 3, are you actually going to see his chance to make that impact over a prolonged period of time? Because you're not going to get that period of time at him. You may have a 3-year window at best with him. Then it's like, all right, now you got to hope that the guys that are underneath him are kind of plug and play where he has this path in mind. Like, all right, I'm going to give you 3 great years. When I leave, this guy here will kind of pick up the slack and move on and continue my program. But like that's in Seattle, you saw it over a long period of time where you had a chance to these guys to blossom and develop. You may not have that same window here.
Bro, that to me sounds exactly what Seattle thought they were doing. Where they get the end of his career, Seattle's already established, the culture's already in place, and they give him a like an executive job, and they
Mhm.
have him help pick out the new coach and
Yep.
everything like that. And he's still a part of the organization. Um, it- I still find it hard to. I still find it hard, whether it's Chicago, the Jets, whoever.
Mhm.
I have a very difficult time seeing Pete Carroll move
Yeah, I
literally
don't see
across
that.
the country to a team like the New York Jets, which just needs a lot of work at 73. It'd be maybe a little different if he was in his 50s or something.
Yep.
And you can sign a bigger deal, 6-7 year massive contract. But and look, maybe it does happen. I don't know. Because he does bring energy. I don't think we would see that report about him being interested in the Bears if he actually did not want to go there at all.
Mhm.
So I think there's a chance, but I would say a small chance.
Yeah, no, I mean, interesting name, very reputable guy. Like we love. I mean, great. He's accomplished everything in the NFL and college football. Got a championship in both. He's accomplished everything. But it's just like, all right, the stage he's at in his career, I prefer. This sounds terrible, but just maybe a younger guy that I know if you get that great coach, they could be here for 10 years or 7 years. Where if you get that winning out of him, you may only have it 2, 3. You know what? He just unfortunately father time. It's like, all right, sorry, got to go. And you're like, man, I want that. Like I see the Vrabel mentions, and that's a guy that everybody wants. That's the top candidate for everybody. But now there's rumors he may go to the Raiders because the affiliation with Tom Brady. There's rumors he may want the Chicago job. And to me, it's like when you evaluate all the open jobs, which we did a little bit last week or last 2 weeks, it's like, where do the Jets fall in that? And to me, it's like the general manager's not in place yet. You got to have a great hire there. Then it goes general manager because you want to know who you're reporting to. Then it's who's my quarterback. That's the thing. And when you look at that with the Jets, where they stack up, Aaron Rodgers or not, I'm not sure that they're going to rank in the top 3 or 4 in terms of Mike Vrabel. Then how do you get him to come here? What, money and promises? Like, how do you get him to come here?
Yeah, money, power, I would say as well. If you want to give Vrabel the power of a Harbaugh
Would you
in
do? Would you
LA,
do that though?
it's a lot of power, man. I mean,
How many? He coached what 6 years with the Titans?
I believe 7. I could be wrong on that, but
But and I'm just maybe I'm cynical, but to me, I think there's levels in coaching, right? To me, it's like I would have sold my soul to get Sean Payton in the building, no problem. Jim Harbaugh, John Harbaugh, fine, great. Is Mike Vrabel really on that level? And I understand what he accomplished with the Titans, but is he that prominent coaching force where you give him personnel say power just to get him to come here?
well, again, man, going back to your original question, what are the Jets forced into doing that because of the Jets situation?
That's a fair
You know
point.
what I mean? So that I feel like is maybe the bigger question.
Well, but
Uh,
is he that elite coach slam dunk hire that will automatically, instantaneously change your culture and guarantee you're winning within 2 years, 3 years?
I, he obviously gives us a better chance to win, I would say, than the majority of candidates out there because I trust his culture. I trust him, former player, what he's done, head coaching experience. But there are questions, man.
Mhm.
Like one thing that Harbaugh excels in is building a staff. Jim Harbaugh, I'm talking
Yep,
about.
100%.
Sean Payton excels in building a staff. There were major questions about Mike Vrabel building a staff at the end of the Titans era. Yeah, we could talk about Matt LaFleur and Arthur Smith. Great hires. Arthur Smith actually worked his way up, from within, kind of
Mhm.
like what we're seeing with Ben Johnson, in Detroit. But there were questions about quarterback development. There were questions about offense side of the football. Keith Carter, Todd Downing. Is there a chance that if Vrabel's hired, he would just keep the same exact offensive staff
Yep.
in place, especially if it pleases Aaron? I'll say this: I think if the Jets hire Vrabel, we're not going to rebuild.
Nope.
We are going to continue down the Aaron Rodgers path, and we're going to keep on, trying to shoot for the kind of that Super Bowl or bust mentality. And DKB brings up a good point here about Stefanski. And bro, we actually got to do a collab soon, man. I'm going to be out of town this week, but when I get back, I'll hit you up. But Kevin Stefanski, man, where do you stand on him if he gets let go? I don't think he will, though.
It's funny. I actually like him. I think he got screwed with Deshaun Watson, but I was really impressed with how they handled the team when he was losing a quarterback, it seemed like every week. and they were finding ways to win. Like, I think, I actually like him. Probably I think he'd be in my top 3 or 4. I
Yeah.
actually like him, dude.
He would be in my top 3, man. He checks a lot of different boxes, man. Had offensive mind, head coach experience, no BS type of coach.
Yep.
You kind of feel like the whole Deshaun Watson thing was like an ownership, like, ownership is going to force Cleveland to do this because Watson doesn't fit what Stefanski wants to do on offense.
Nope.
And also, bro, Kevin doesn't even bother tailoring the offense towards Watson and his mobility, his strengths.
Yep.
Or what's left of Watson's strengths. I'm not really sure at this point, but it's a lot of under center, a lot of running the football, a lot of play action. But I do think, Kevin actually, he's another guy that excels in building a staff. Like you're looking at how that defense performs. You're looking at, if an OC gets fired or gets let go or gets picked up somewhere else, he can, he easily replaces guys. He's someone with a lot of connections across football, which I really, really like. Background, I believe, in offensive linemen and wide receivers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think he might have been quarterback coach over in Minnesota. But anyway, for me, he'd be in my top 3. I just don't feel like the Browns are going to let him go because I don't know unless they let him go and promote Vrabel. But I don't know if that's weird. Like what would. I don't know.
I think teams that have like quarterback issues that are the clear demise of why you're winning or the reason why you're winning and losing, you don't make a change. Like I think the Browns knew they were a good team. The quarterback was just that bad where it's like, listen, this is tough to overcome that. Like similar with the Dolphins. They were losing because Tua was hurt. They weren't losing because the team, now they're playing differently. But like him being out a few games, they lost games. You can't fire somebody because of that. Dable had the same quarterback all along. He's doing terribly. Then you start worrying about him. But some of these other coaches, I don't think get fired.
Yeah, Mitt, dude, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for that. Sad thing is the Jets are built to win right now. There really isn't much to rebuild. We just need leadership and coaching.
That's not necessarily true.
Well, I would say that the defense needs to be overhauled. I mean, we're going to need new we're going to need probably 1 edge rusher, 2 defensive tackles, 2 safeties, 2 starting safeties, maybe some more corner depth if DJ Reed doesn't come back. How comfortable do you feel with like Eccles or Stiggers out there, opposite of Gardner? Do they get picked on from opposing quarterbacks? I'm not entirely sure like what the defense is going to look. Do we change systems? I think that's another major question. Like if we hire Aaron Glenn, I'm assuming that we're going to see a ton of single high safety looks with a bunch of man coverage on the outside. The Jets aren't really, we don't really see that style of football from, this type or this, current regime. But I see what you're saying though about having like the Rodgers, the Breeses, Garrett, Devontae, Olu coming back, like all these veteran players.
Yeah, but there based on how it works out. I agree about defense. Defense is a complete mess. You got to do a lot of things there. But in theory, you got to revamp. You could have to revamp your wide receiver room because Devontae could be gone. Lazard could be gone. Corley's not even playing. Gibson's not good. You have 1 receiver, right? The tight end group, you may have none. So they're like your wide receiver group, I think you have to get revamped. And you got to find tight ends because Ruckert isn't it. Conklin's a free agent. Yabo is, right? That's 2 different groups you got to kind of maybe have to change.
Right tackle too.
Right tackle.
What's going to happen with Morgan Moses? But Mitt, I appreciate the $10, man. It truly does mean a lot. Yo, Holmes, what's going on, man? Hope you had a great Christmas. Nope, no new GM hitches the wagon to a 42-year-old injured Rodgers for 1 more. Also expensive, expensive Rodgers too. Casper, what's going on, man? Hope you're doing well.
But that's why Rodgers is saying all these things over the last couple of weeks and going into this week. I'll take a discount. I already made all the money I need. I'll play for less. I just want to play ball. He's saying all the right things to put the Jets in a spot where it's like, well, I always want to do whatever they wanted, and they release me. Like make us, like not us, the Jets, the bad guys. Oh no, I wanted to come back. I do, and they kicked me out the door. Like the whole victim thing there. Which makes it even more interesting. But like, all right, how much are you willing to, like, what's your pay cut? Because my fear with that is like this 1 year, another win now year with Rodgers, and then you're kicking this cap concerns 1 more year down the line. You're delaying the inevitable, which is a rebuild. One more year for what? Bringing him back is guaranteeing you what? 8 wins? Like what's the guarantee? Like what's the the run it back crew is great. Run it back, run it back. Okay, what are we running it back for? Are you running it back because you're just tired of seeing a losing? You have no faith in nobody else? Or are you running it back because you think of the best chance to win? But what is that ceiling? 9 wins? 10 wins? What are you running it back for?
Well, that's the thing, man. Like, if the Jets were 9-8, barely missing the playoffs, I think there would be a lot more people just saying run it back and try again, fix the kicker, get a better defense, get a better offensive coaching staff, whatever it may be, because we're this close. But dude, my God, we only have 4 wins on the year, and this schedule was easier than last year.
Yep. It's bad.
Think about that, dude. We go from Zach Wilson and a hard schedule to Aaron Rodgers and an easier schedule, and we go backwards. And Rodgers is, by the statistics, is putting up a good season, but it's just like the important things the Jets just don't do well: clock management, mental toughness, red zone, game preparation, play calls, just delay of games, penalties, not getting better throughout the weeks. You always kind of feel like it's just the same Jets team, no matter who they're playing or where. They're not actually getting better throughout A, the course of the game, or B, the course of the season, which is just really frustrating and pretty disheartening.
Yeah, especially when you're looking for glimmers of hope, and you had that with Olu. Like, you know what? Olu, they finally, your offensive line, you could have 4 of the 5 guys back next year. Olu's playing left tackle, getting invaluable experience. He gets hurt. You're like, oh, it's like the little glimmers of hope. Corley not playing at all while you're watching Gibson fumble and Lazard drop passes all over the place. It's like that's the thing that's making me frustrated. I want the young guys to play. Sherwood's getting plenty of time. That's good. I want the youth movement, dude, but they don't want to do that because you know what? Rodgers and these guys, they want their best chance to win now in meaningless games.
Yeah, dude. The Jets are in a tough spot, man. Yeah, Stanley, run back what?
Exactly.
The team's 4-11. At best, we're 500, which gets you nothing but a lower draft pick. Because realistically speaking, who falls off next year in the AFC? Miami, a lot of teams takes a step back.
But how many teams this year are disappointed they're going to bounce back stronger next year? Like the Bengals are a good team. They're not, you figure the Steelers probably get a different quarterback. You're having teams like the down years for good teams are be good years next year. Certain teams, what you get week in and week out, right? Or year in and year out. So, all right, the Jets have been down forever, but there's always changing the guard. CJ Stroud struggling now. He'll probably be better. You got to assume that things aren't always going to get better too, man.
Yeah, man. Because it's again, realistically speaking, the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, the Steelers, the Bengals,
the Broncos are getting better.
Yeah, the Broncos, the Chargers. If the Raiders hire Vrabel, there's a lot of teams, man, that
just not to cut you off, but just to but we're talking about the Jets finding a great coach to change their fortunes instantly. There's 2 teams in the AFC that can happen with, right? The Jaguars. You give Trevor Lawrence and these guys a really legit. Vrabel goes there. That's a team that went from being a laughing stock company. They're going to be competitive. The Raiders. Vrabel goes there to get a quarterback. They could change like that. So the same change everybody wants the Jets to have. Some of these lower teams looking for a quarterback have the same kind of instant change where those easy teams are no longer easy anymore.
Yeah, and who said? The Colts are still in the mix. Denver's obviously a really good football team, and Paul, bro, that's an excellent point. And I appreciate the 5, man. Thank you so much. I hope you had a great, holiday and Christmas. And
he did. He called me
here.
Paul called me with his wife. They call me during the holidays. Don't trust me. They had a great one. Oh yeah, he's a good friend of mine.
Sweet, man.
Yeah, he was Merry Christmas. He's yelling. They're all partying. They had a great Christmas.
Dude, that's awesome, man. I appreciate the super chat, bro. Gruden, Vrabel, Flores. The Jets need an alpha head coach to lead the change of this dumpster fire of an organization. That's kind of one of the things that a lot of Jets fans are clamoring for, right? You don't want another coach coming in and they're getting bossed around by the media, they're getting bossed around by the headlines, they're getting bossed around by Woody Johnson. Gruden, Vrabel, Flores, all excellent choices because they could say, Woody, no, we're not doing that. That doesn't work. I don't like that idea. Just put it to bed. We're not doing it. And I don't really envision Flores or, Vrabel or Gruden. Gruden's actually talked a lot about this, dealing with the media and headlines and not really letting external noise get into the building. Vrabel's an interesting option because, yeah, he's a player. Yeah, he's a tough, minded physical head coach. But the Tennessee media is a lot different than, being in the spotlight with the New York Jets, where there's instant expectations. If the Jets hire Vrabel, he puts together a staff. He keeps Aaron Rodgers. He keeps Devontae Adams. Yeah, there's going to be immense pressure year one.
1,000%. And that's an excellent point. Like, being down in Tennessee is one thing. Being in this market with this team, with the dysfunction and the instant need for credibility and respect, that's when you, like with Paul's tweet, that's our tweet is super chat, is you get instant respect. Like when you hire a certain coach, they walk in the door, it's like, all right, no nonsense is now here. And there's accountability. You have that, not fear factor, but you have that disciplined nature. You have that force that you need to clean things up. A lot of these first-time guys, you don't know what to bring to the table. And they've got to figure that out on the fly in this environment, which is not easy, as we've seen with how many coaches have been run out of town here.
Yeah, and K-Dude, bro, I appreciate that, man. And I think a lot of people kind of look at maybe like the Liam Cohens, the first-time guys, maybe an Aaron Glenn. I don't know. No one really knows exactly how the dynamic would work out. But I think the fear is that those guys would get, kind of pushed down and, getting like instructions from ownership, letting the media. I mean, we saw Saleh. He really cared about the media.
Yep, too much.
The Jets really cared about how they're perceived.
And that's got to stop, though. That's part of the problem. That's why they're getting pushed around. And that's why the players, there is that, I don't want to say lazy, it's that complacent locker room where it's like, all right, like there is no pushback. There is no force. There is no fear factor. It's just everybody's just one happy losing Jets family right now.
Yeah, Casper, man, it's interesting. It is, it's interesting for sure. But, ownership is one of those things where you can't really talk too much about it because like a GM position can change, a head coach can, there's a lot of changes. For a team to change owners, like that is just a massive decision that like not many people have, like it I don't want to say it feels pointless to talk about, oh, we need a new owner. Cause it's like, what's the chance of that actually happening? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. And it's $1 billion industry. So changing an owner is not going to happen. What you want is the owner to open his eyes after losing a ton of games and a ton of money to say, okay, listen, what we're doing now is not working. I need to back out and let football guys make football decisions, which was the plan when they hired Douglas and Saleh.
Yep. And keep in mind, man, that was Chris Johnson too.
Yep, absolutely.
Ifs and buts, but this team sucks. Hi, and how are you? Do you think Wilson is going to be traded? I don't think he's going to be traded, but I do think he's going to put in the trade request. Yep. If I'm being 100% honest. But Tyson, man, I think we covered a lot.
Yeah, I mean, this is a couple more weeks left, and then the rumors are going to start heating up. General manager candidates, coaching candidates. I mean, I really hope that they expedite this general manager search to get it done as fast as possible because we talked about it before, man, where that timeline, end of the season, Vrabel's getting calls, right? I mean, the season ends, he's getting interviews. You don't want to be sitting here behind the 8 ball. Well, we want to interview, but we don't have our guy in place yet. And then you're screwed. And you miss out on that time right there.
Yeah, dude. Couldn't said it better myself. Like, I want the Jets to be on top of things, moving forward, hiring people, or not necessarily hiring people, but interviewing people and really slimming down the list.
Yep.
And I think the good news is, that's the benefit why you fire a Joe Douglas, in the middle of the season. The reason you do that is so you could get a jump start on everything. I mean, Tannenbaum's already in place. Spielman's already in place. We've already had GM interviews. I'm sure, there's a list somewhere behind the scenes of different GM, candidates and whatnot that the Jets are going to have lined up. Hopefully, I would hope that the Jets are.
Well, yeah, and you have all your criteria already down, and you have your characteristics already in mind of what you want. Like you've already interviewed 3 or 4 guys, so now you know their answers, you know their plan. You have something to compare as you go forward. So you're not chasing your tail. You're learning a lot in a small period of time that makes you hopefully give you a better decision in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, man, 100%. And Holmes, I appreciate that. But it's going to do it for us. I appreciate everyone hanging out and tuning in, especially the day after Christmas. I know a lot of people had today off, and a lot of people are spending time with their families and whatnot. So it does really mean a lot. But yeah, anyway, thanks so much. And as always, go Jets.